Hey everyone, my name is Erin James. This is a review of the film Babylon, directed by Damien Chazelle, starring Diego Calva, Brad Pitt, Samara Weaving, Margot Robbie, Tobey Maguire, Phoebe Tonkin. Not in that billing order, but I'm just going off what I remember. The film takes place between a couple decades, 1920s to probably further than the 40s, about the rise and fall of a few ambitious Hollywood, stars, and leads to a lot of very tragic endings, actually, and for probably all of them. Some more than others, and for some, it's more of them choosing a path that maybe is not what they wanted at the beginning, but they felt is more in tune and more connected with their morals and ethics, and for the sake of their survival. Now, this movie's good. It's definitely one of my top 5 films of the year. I was not going in with many expectations. I actually had very little idea of what it was about. I saw one trailer, and even then I wasn't sure what it was about, except maybe a couple people trying to find that high in life of being known and recognized, but I wasn't sure how they were going to go about it. This film, in some ways, is an homage to Hollywood. Maybe not so an homage because of the sad endings, but definitely a story that speaks on how Hollywood can be many times, and not just back then, but could be how it is now. It follows these about four or five characters throughout their rise and fall, throughout their careers in Hollywood, and the moves they've made and how their paths cross many times within Hollywood, which could be how it is in real life. A lot of people, the circle is not as big as people believe it is. And so you end up crossing paths or connecting with people that are very close to other people. And that's how you end up keeping your career afloat, is having those connections, but also recognizing that Hollywood is a very superficial world. And you have to have the look and follow certain ideas in order to stay relevant and stay in the eye of the public. The main focus is on, I believe the biggest story is on Diego Calva's character named Manny Torres, I think. So Manny is from, I think, Spain. People keep calling him Mexican throughout this movie, which, that happens a lot. If you know Spanish, no matter what part of the world you're from, you are Mexican. So Manny, he comes over. He is not really big. He's trying to make it by doing performances with an elephant, and he ends up in the right place at the right time to get to end up building a career in Hollywood, which he's always aspired to be a part of. The same with Margot Robbie's character, Nellie Leroy, who I really enjoyed. Margot Robbie does fantastic in this role. I think she was very much tested as far as how quick she can switch up, as far as her emotions and her attitude in presenting this. And it very much felt like this for her was that test of what can you do as an actress and how far can you go. And I really enjoyed that. I think they did very well at approaching that. Brad Pitt's character, he plays the character Jack Conrad, who is very much more already established in a way. He's famous. Or at least he's at that peak, close to the peak of his fame. He's well known. Everyone wants him in a movie. He's a charming, handsome man. Been through so many divorces because he's always looking for the next thing to fill that hole in him. And so Brad Pitt played that character very well. I really appreciated it. Tobey Maguire's character is not in the movie too much, but when he is, I really enjoyed him. He steals the scene wherever he's in, and I think they casted him perfectly for that. And so I guess we'll get into that since it's much further into the movie. The movie is long. It's 3 hours. We're reaching that for many movies now, especially blockbusters and big cinematic films such as Babylon. We saw that in previous films. I mean, Titanic is one of the most known. You have other films, I think Gone with the Wind prior, but a lot of movies now are easing into 2.5 hours and pushing to that 3 hour range. Avatar is coming up, and you have that over 3 hours long. You already had Endgame. There are many other movies like that. I remember the first one that I saw in theaters was King Kong with Jack Black. So yeah, Babylon is long, 3 hours, and I think it was worth every minute. I went in again with no expectations. This movie hits the ground running. It has an amazing opening. The first 15 minutes are constant. The first 15 minutes are filled with constant sound, beautiful music, colors, and just people moving every which way, and you're trying to keep up, and it keeps you stimulated. I loved the music. The jazz throughout the whole film is incredible, and they have a character who does jazz, so they kind of incorporate that into the music playing throughout the movie. I remember in the beginning, the opening scene, and what was going on. I remember thinking halfway through, I'm in. I am invested. This scene doesn't have to end, or this scene can end. I'm in. When it finally did end, I said, okay, we're in for a show. If this is something that needs to be watched in theaters, in the movies, need to be planted. The music, the sound, it was as cinematic as it tries to be, and it is very grand, and it feels grand. The characters feel grand. The dreams that they're trying to pursue feel grand. So the beginning is probably the most, I don't want to say intense because there are other intense scenes. It is definitely the most musical, right? The most loud experience of the film. And that's not to say the rest of the film drags, but it definitely feels very much like it's the grand opening. It's the opening of, this is what you're going to get through this movie. Unexpected, an emotional roller coaster, but very much very fun. And admittedly, after that scene, I was kind of concerned that what if the movie's slow for the rest of the film? But it is not. This movie moves fast, and it does so to keep up with all the characters that they're trying to tell, or the stories that they're trying to tell. It does well with keeping up and keeping you moving. So every scene that a character is in, or the character that is in each scene, their story always takes a step forward, and there are no steps back. It has to move in order to keep up with everyone. And Damien Chazelle does fantastic at doing that. I was on the edge of my seat in the final half of the film. I didn't know where we were going, what was going to happen. And when you start realizing what's going to happen, what is likely to happen, it becomes very heartbreaking. And it's almost as if you hit this wall in a good way, because of this life that's been fantasized and fetishized, and that people seek and aspire to be a part of the glitz and glam and fame, and getting what you want, all the drugs you want, partying with the people you want, getting all the sex that you want, and then to end up hitting a wall and realizing that this is ending, and that you've spent so much of your life invested in not only being a part of this, but getting to this. And so when you realize that it's at an end, and some of the characters have given up, it becomes very sad and becomes this emotional roller coaster. But in the end, every character is in love with film and loves having at least been a part of it, no matter how small of a time they were a part of it. Samara Weaving isn't a main part of the story or plot, but she's in these scenes where they're filming a movie that Nellie Leroy, Margot Robbie's character, is a part of. And I think they did really clever in doing this. They're never in the same shot together. And I think that plays with the idea that they look very similar to one another, because when Ready or Not came out, I remember Samara Weaving got a lot of compliments or comments on her looking very much like Margot Robbie. And maybe Damien Chazelle saw that as an opportunity to play on the joke. And I'm sure he was playing with the audience for those who do not know who Samara Weaving is and who do not see the differences in the details on their face. I noticed immediately when they moved the camera from Margot Robbie's character, from Nellie, to Samara Weaving's character. I said, that's not the same person. Looks similar, makeup similar. They definitely even put their hair similar. Not the same person. And I know a lot of people in the audience thought they were the same, probably think they're the same person, but they're not. And I thought that was very clever and very well done. I thought that was smart. And not in no point of the film do they have them in the same scene and play a joke on we look alike. Right? And I was expecting that. Diego Calva's character, Manny, I really did not know where this story was going with Manny, and I was very much invested and interested. His path, his story was, again, one of the bigger ones, connected with Nellie's and how their paths cross as they're both in this world of Hollywood, and they're both trying to climb to the top. At one point, Nellie is, in a way, at the top. She's seen as this sex icon, this sex symbol, and does very well in acting and so well at portraying certain characters, but people feel that they need someone who's more conservative and who plays a lady. And Manny has these ideas of film because he just loves film. He didn't go to film school, he didn't study it, he just loves film so much. And he has these ideas that end up leading him to being a producer and then a director and being part of these rooms where he tells these stories, and he wants to help Nellie because he's in love with her. But in the end, Nellie's life and lifestyle, which she is a part of, she knows love is not a part of this lifestyle. And so she keeps pushing Manny away. But eventually she realizes that Manny is good for her, but because of how far she's gone into it, it's over, right? She can't do it. And so, but Manny's story was very interesting, very sad, heartbreaking, and the movie starts and ends with him. And I thought that was very well done, very well thought out of, really very well thought of. Diego Calva played the character amazing, like perfect, in my opinion. I think every actor in here played their role very well. Tobey Maguire's character, he plays like this mob boss kind of thing, a loan shark giving out money, and if you don't pay him, you end up missing. And he's part of these conspiracy, these parties that you believe rich, wealthy people are a part of, and these underground things that they partake in. Tobey Maguire's character is a part of that world. Being a loan shark, living in LA, having all this money and these connections with people and knowing people, he is definitely just that person that's you don't want to mess with, but he could probably get you some stuff that if you want it, if you really want it, and have the money to pay for it. Yeah, Tobey Maguire's character is great, and I really enjoyed when he was in the film. Again, he's not in the film a lot, but when he is, he shines, and he is hilarious, and he is just as funny as he is terrifying. Those characters, Brad Pitt's character, Margot Robbie's character, Diego Calva's character, are the focus in this film, or they have the biggest story in this film, but we do follow a couple others. Anna May Long, played by Lee Jun Lee, is a character that is in Hollywood a singer, popular singer, very sensual singer that people adore and fantasize about and probably fetishize, but who is part of the LGBTQIA plus community, which people see as harmful to the image of their films, to any actors or celebrities that are associated with anime. And so they kind of try to brush her off. But she's a star. She can sing. She knows how to seduce men and women alike and make them feel wanted and loved and just feel like they're the highlight. Whenever she sings, she'll choose someone and makes them feel part of it. I loved the character that Lee Jun Lee played, and that character, I was very much interested in the story, but they don't, again, that character wasn't one of the bigger storylines to tell. So I kind of wanted more, but it was fine how what was given, and I would feel that if there is if there is a story to tell that someone can think of, if Damien Chazelle wants to work with that, I'd very much be interested in following that story. Sidney Palmer. Sidney Palmer is a character, the jazz player I was speaking of, black jazz player. Jovan Adepo is the one who plays Sidney Palmer. Adepo did wonderful with this character. Sidney Palmer, again, this takes place in the 20s through the 40s, 50s, and so Sidney Palmer, being a jazz player who enters into Hollywood, he's only seen as a prop. And if you haven't seen Nope, they kind of speak on this, of animals and people of color being seen as mostly just props. So Sidney Palmer, he's a great musician, and so he gets to go into these parties and these events. He ends up having a film that surrounds him and his character and his life that Manny ends up being a part of and helps produce or at least direct. And so Sidney Palmer reaches this level of fame where people still see him as black, because he is, but the white liberalism comes out, right, from certain people. And Sidney Palmer feels overwhelmed by this, but he's able to take care of himself, his family, and he feels that this is the way that it is because of who he is. But then he hits a wall, and spoiler alert, Sidney Palmer is asked to do blackface. He is given this stuff, I forgot what it's called, but it's very dark, and he's told to put it on his face because the supporting band is full of dark-skinned players, and there's a spotlight on him, so it's making his face look lighter, and people want to see a darker-skinned person in the spotlight. And so he ends up being in blackface playing jazz. That scene was one of those scenes that were intense and very cinematic as far as sound, and yet heartbreaking. And that's why throughout this film you get this mix of emotions, but it's almost like the music and the sound is telling you to feel it intensely. And so you're not sure, you're aware of how you want to feel, but you're not sure how else to feel. It feels like there's another emotion being pulled from you of this excitement and intensity because of the film that you're watching. And so that scene was beautiful. After he does that scene, he ends up leaving. He's like, I'm done with Hollywood. They're trying to portray me as something I'm not. They're trying to intensify only a part of my identity, of part of who I am, when I'm not just that. And he recognizes that, so he decides to move on. Those two stories, right, Anime and Sidney Palmer, Anime Wong and Sidney Palmer, were great stories I love to follow. I kind of wish they followed those stories a bit more. I was excited, and throughout the whole movie, when the movie does hit a stopping point or slows down, it is only temporary, and it adds to the story, and it gives us another very big piece that helps us jump right into the noise again, into the intensity and the fast pace. This movie was like a roller coaster, and I loved every second of it. The ending was amazing, where it kind of goes through this timeline, this time capsule of films, and just highlights all these films throughout time and how amazing they are, and how amazing film is, and how creative and artistic and how impactful and inspiring and a part of our lives film is. Film is such an inspiration to me and has been such a big part of my life since as far as I can remember. I loved that kind of closing, like, PS, that love Babylon or love Damien Chazelle, to all the fans of film who came to watch this movie, to the fans of cinema and of Hollywood and this idea of glitz and glam that is not really what it seems, but the product that is presented, the product that comes from all this blood, sweat, and tears and hurt and pain and death. They do speak on living forever in the film as well, with one of the characters of, even if you are no longer it, even if you are no longer the star, and you are gone, you will live forever in these films. Anyway, that's my review on Babylon. I hope you all watch it in theaters. I recommend watching it in theaters. I would love to know what you all think about the film. Please comment below if you've seen it. If not, what films do you feel were your favorite of 2022? Until next time, y'all take care of each other. Check up on one another. Check up on yourself. And remember, potential has no limit.